everybody. It's about 6:45 on day 5, final day, and we're getting ready to mosey. And it's been a chilly one. Kind of cold last night. Definitely got freezing. David's water bag had some ice in it, and we had a couple coyotes come through camp last night, or pretty close to it. Not exactly sure how many, because it was echoing off of the wall behind our camp here. So without further ado, and I'm pretty cold, we're gonna get moving here, and we're gonna head up over the hill. The first mile, I think, is about 400 or 500 feet elevation gain. Then we're back up into some familiar territory, the tundra, heading over to Devil's Causeway. So later, guys. One last shot down in the Deer Lake. Absolutely beautiful. And that was our camp for last night. I don't know if this can make it out, but that sun is gorgeous coming up to the center of those trees there. Deep red. That smoke from the fires is just creating a pretty majestic view. And a flat top there as well. Well, if you stuck with me this long on this trip, you'll notice this sign from a few days ago. And this is where we turned down to head down to Little Trappers Lake a few days ago. But we're heading back that direction now. Got a couple more miles until we get to the Devil's Causeway, and a little adrenaline rush, hopefully. So we'll see what happens at that point. What are you thinking about the Devil's Causeway, man?
Yeah, looking forward to it.
He says that now. All right, guys, we're heading on.
I want to see Seth cry.
He's already seen me cry a few times. So we've reached the intersection that we came out on a few days ago again, but this section is the new part. And I don't know if you could tell, probably right up in that little area, that's the little sketchy part that we're going to be going across. So hopefully the wind dies down and we don't blow off of it.
Wait till we go back.
We'll roll down closer to the car. We're approaching the Devil's Causeway. We're actually on it right now, but apparently the challenging part's right there in front of us with a nice big drop off on either side.
This is the Devil's Causeway.
So this is a section of the Devil's Causeway that everybody talks about, and you could see somewhat why it's a little sketchy in some areas. You can see the drop off to this side, and then over on this as well. So not a very long stretch, but definitely something you want to pay attention to, because that first step will be a doozy. I'll take you across with me here. All right, here we go. You're making it look easy, man. I want to let you know, this guy, he is one serious hiker, man. He has been battling some leg and foot pain this whole time, and you can see, man, this guy is a trooper. Good job, man. Glad it's over, right? Good job, man.
Thanks.
Heck of a job. Down there in the distance, that's Stillwater Reservoir. That's where we started our trip out. You can kind of see the path coming up the valley here and all of this gorgeousness that we came across.
Speaking of gorgeous,
On cue. And we traveled all the way through this valley, around the outside of that, back up around, and then back to the other side of the wilderness area, and then finally coming up through the Devil's Causeway here. So heck of a trip, heck of a trip. And just for all intents and purposes, this is the map that I used to plan this little trip in the Flat Tops Wilderness. It's the Colorado Wilderness Flat Tops Wilderness topographic hiking map. So in case you're looking to go ahead and recreate this route or have some questions as to what we did on our trip, we started off here at the Stillwater Reservoir Trailhead, made our way around the north side of it, and this actually does not, I don't think any of these really have trail names that I remember seeing. But this one here will lead you up to the Devil's Causeway on the east side, and it's a pretty gradual climb. Most of the trails are graded for stock, so it's not too awful bad as far as the grade, but it does still have a lot of elevation gain. Once we got up to the top of here, we dropped back down into the valley. This is where we had a beautiful shot of the Devil's Causeway as well as the start of the Chinese Wall that we saw on there. This actually is going through a nice wooded area as you break your way down, and then you're going to go along these beautiful lakes all the way through this entire area here. There's actually a few meadows, I think, in this general vicinity here as well that were kind of cool. After we made our way around this area, we made it to West Lost Lake, which is right at the base before the climb up to the top of the Chinese Wall, and that's where we camped on night one. The climb up to the top is actually pretty steep to start it off at, and then kind of lulls you into a false sense of security right about here where it starts to get a little more gradual. Then it basically goes up steep really quick again towards the end here. Once you get to the top here, you're going to be following along this giant tundra area all the way back to the west side of the Chinese Wall, and not a whole lot of trail in here, so you just make sure if you do plan on this trip that you kind of know where you're going along there. You'll see a lot of like sheep tracks and stuff like that, but there really is no trail. With that being said, I would recommend staying up higher than dropping down lower. We actually kind of dropped into a little bowl and then had to climb back out of it again. Not hard at all, but if you stay up on the high side, you'll be fine. Once we got to that, we made a left here along the Chinese Wall Trail, and we got down into this area. Now this is actually nice and open, so you're up really high here until you get to the Little Trappers Trail, and we jutted off in this direction here, and you don't really hit it until about right here, and then you start dropping down pretty decent, and actually that's through a giant burn area all the way down into Little Trappers Lake. This is where we stayed at for night 2. Beautiful area, and we also had an elk that kind of came through this area here, and it must have jutted off this way. In the middle of the night we heard it bugling. Day 3 we actually came up around to this is I believe the, can't remember exactly what trail this is, I don't think it has a name here, but we made our way around Trappers Lake. This is actually a gorgeous area. Smoke started to get a little thick here for us in this side of the trip, but then we branched off all the way up to make it to Wall Lake Trail. This here is another climb through the woods. Part of it starts off in the burn area, but then it kind of gets to a ridge about this area, and the fire didn't jump across, so you got a lot of wooded area through there. That's kind of nice. But it's once again a good climb to the top, and all the way over here to Wall Lake. Wall Lake is where we stayed at on day 3, and absolutely gorgeous. I was planning on doing some fishing there, but unfortunately we didn't really see any fishing jumping at night. Even though the bugs were, you know, on the water, didn't see a whole lot. Saw some ducks and things in the lake itself, but absolutely gorgeous place to camp for the night. On morning of day 4, we made our way back up out of that, following the Wall Lake Trail down to this area here. And once you're into this section right around in here, a lot of small little ponds and things along those lines, and a lot of rocks. Once we got to that area, we came across this little segment, and this is where we saw a nice big huge giant mountain there with a lot of rock faces and stuff on this side. We traversed around the outside of this, and the best view that we had, in my opinion, the entire trip was looking down onto Island Lakes. Absolutely gorgeous. It was really smoky, but even with the smoke, it was just amazing. And I want to go back here sometime and explore this area and stay here, because it just is beautiful. That's all I can say about it. From there, we made our way over here to Deer Lake, and that's where we camped at for the end of day 4. Another beautiful area. It does drop down into the lake, so you have a pretty decent climb back up in the next morning. On day 5, we made our way back up all the way along this trail here, back to the Chinese Wall Trail again, and that's where we crossed the Devil's Causeway. Another highlight of the trip. Absolutely beautiful. It does feel a little sketchy if you're afraid of heights. There are some sections there that are only about 3 feet wide, but if you look at the video, you'll see I kind of made it away pretty quick. And then we dropped back down into Stillwater Reservoir, where we had our car parked. So I hope that helps you out. I hope that motivates you to get out and try this trip. I would highly recommend it. One of my favorite trips so far after being out here. So till next time, guys, as always, get out and enjoy some nature. Get out and hike.